the meeting of the City Council for March 3rd. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the roll.
Legansky.
Here.
Shower.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Stompanato.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Belzak.
Here.
7 present.
We have a quorum. It takes us to questions and comments and announcements of a general nature. This is on our agenda. It allows anyone from the audience to come forward and address the council on any issue, either agenda related or not agenda related. Does anybody have anything, anybody in our audience, please come forward. Just state your name.
Hello, Joe Mychuk. My question is, or comment and question, is I recently received a mailing from Metronet internet services. Apparently they're going to be, this mailing was both solicitation to sign a contract with them and also noticed that they're going to be installing some fiber internet cable in our neighborhood. Okay? And part of the installation, they're saying that they have the legal right to enter our properties to install equipment. So I didn't know who to ask this question to. Do they have the legal right to enter our properties? I think maybe in our easements, but I'm not sure. And also, as part of this, and I can maybe see this happening, they're going to probably convince people, well, now's the perfect time to connect, to your house. Kind of like a coercion. So I don't think that that's part of allowing them onto the property. But if somebody could answer that question, please.
Mr. Gombeck.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was going to bring it up under director's report, but if I may, I'll address it right now for the city council. Unfortunately, and I do say unfortunately, that MetroNet had sent out a mailer that was not supposed to have been sent out yet, first and foremost. I have an email back to the team leader, the regional director, expressing my disappointment, first of all. We had a meeting with MetroNet approximately a month and a half ago, and this was a kickoff meeting in regards to fiber. Fiber optic is different than 5G. MetroNet in this case is looking at laying a brand new grid throughout the city of Darien. If you recall, this will be an operation like Comcast was in the early 80s, late 70s. The goal of this was that they would be installing fiber main cables within the actual right-of-ways and utility easements. All their pedestals would be underground, all their infrastructure would be underground, as they do not have the rights, or it's a complicated right for them to be on any poles, utility poles within easements. The real question right now is whether or not they have the right to be within a utility easement. We staff have been in conversation with legal counsel on MetroNet's end and our end regarding the right for utility easements. We have a conference call coming up this week. In conjunction with that, we have all agreed that they have the opportunity to be within a right-of-way. There's a second competitor that's also knocking at the door, Lumos. They're also a provider. Again, staff's concern on this is where are we going to put all this infrastructure and how's it going to be jammed in there? And how's it going to be handled, whether it's MetroNet, Lumos, or another potential provider within these utility easements that are currently loaded underground, whether they're services and or main cables. So again, I'm disappointed that MetroNet had released this. I just found out about a mailer that was sent out to a resident this afternoon, and Diane Novarini had forwarded it to me. So again, I have an email out expressing some concern to MetroNet So actually, you beat me to the punch on the presentation.
Dan, what are the fiber optics that are on like along Clarendon Hills Road that were put in the easement?
Private, those are private. For example, I believe there's one that goes to the school up on Wilmette. And I think that goes to another school. It's a communication, it's a private cable. Also, there's some private cables that are on Plainfield Road. We, as a matter of fact, on a water main break, had hit one. Well, when you hit a fiber cable, it's not a cheap fix. We were invoiced, I should say, for a $20,000 hit, okay? If you're not on the Julie system and we hit these cables, we're not taking responsibility because basically these things are like twigs in the ground. You can't decipher it, whether it's a branch or it's a cable in many cases. Now granted, Metronets might have two cables within a 1.5 to 2-inch duct, a little bit different. But in some cases, they're direct burial cable and we will hit them. Especially during the water main break. They're unidentifiable, so there's arrangements that we've had with Metronet, and Metronet was to be at a council meeting in the very near future here to roll out the program.
Dan, there are a few other towns are trying to, I believe, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Downers Grove and us got together on discussing easements and just brainstorming some of this right-of-way activity. So we're working with legal counsel from Downers Grove on this issue. It's my understanding that Woodridge may have passed something already in this respect, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that the agreements are all in place, and the franchise agreement is going to be coming forward to the city council. So that right now, there's no permits, they have no right to do any work at this point, and no permits have been issued.
Yeah, help you out, Joe.
Can I ask one other question related to this, please? And not to put the cart before the horse, I apologize for that, but if some of this does go through and they do get permission to come onto our property, I'm sure there are some people that, maybe have a garden or a water feature or something like that in their yard. It might be on the easement. And they don't want some trenching machine coming in there and ripping the hell out of everything. And I know some of the other utilities, they use like that boring machine that just goes underground. They don't have to tear up the lawn or anything like that. They just bore through there. I know that also presents some problems to, maybe like the sanitary sewer as an example, but could a resident say, if you have to come through here, you're not gonna use that trenching device. You're gonna have to use that boring machine to go to my property. Does somebody, would the resident have the legal right to insist on that?
Joe, I think you're getting a little bit too far ahead of the
Okay.
cart before the horse, but yes, all that has been talked about. It is all gonna be bored, and again, there's a lot of logistics that we spent about 3-4 hours on a couple different meetings. So once this comes on there, we're gonna have something on Direct Connect, letting residents know, and what the protocols will be.
Yeah, good. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes us to approval of the special minutes of February 3rd, 2025. We have a motion to approve. Alderman Shower, seconded by Alderman Belzak. Any questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Shower.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Kenny.
Abstain.
Legansky.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Okay, we have 6 ayes and 1 abstention.
The minutes for that meeting have been approved. Takes us to receiving the communications. Do any of the aldermen have communications they want to share? Alderman Shower.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got an email from Nicolette D'Onofrio. She lives at 8333 Capsons Lane. Basically, since the High Haven dispensary has opened up, she has seen an increase of foot traffic between the hotel up to High Haven. And basically what she's telling me is that she's seen people trying to get in the cars in the back of the parking lots on the apartment buildings. increase the smell of marijuana and an increase more of litter of alcohol, cans and bottles or whatever. Obviously, this is more directed to the chief. If there's a situation, I'm just hoping that we could turn around and step up the patrols a little bit more. Because she's saying that during the warmer times, the foot traffic is a little bit more involved to it. But Chief, if you could just let us know the situation. I know it's legal to have marijuana and you can buy booze in the state of Illinois, but you can't be opening and smoking it in a public place. I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's some rules about where you can smoke marijuana and stuff, so if there's a violation, the easiest way is just to give us a call and we'll come over and.
So just call 911. So they shouldn't be smoking out and walking or anything like that. So, yeah, what's interesting is she was telling in an email that a lot of these people are walking through the back of the parking lots instead of going through the sidewalks, and they're also walking in the middle of the streets and so forth. So, as you just said, call 911 if anything looks out of the normal, we'll go from there. But the big thing is, if you could check in a little bit more patrols. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Okay, that takes us to the mayor's report. This is not on the agenda, but I wanted to mention a little bit about our committee structure here in the city. Clear up any misperceptions that people might have with regard to that. Currently, we have 9 committees. 3 of them are committees that we have aldermanic appointments, and the chair is an alderman for the city. Those are the police committee, and the chair is Mr. Kenny, admin finance, and the chair is Alderwoman Sullivan, and municipal services, and the chair is Mr. Alderman Belzak. And those are not appointed committees. I usually choose the chair, but when we have a new election and we will do this again probably in April, we'll have a realignment of committees. Those are those 3. Those are committees that have minutes. They provide there's advertisement of their meetings. Everything's very transparent with that committee, those committees. But then we have what I call our formal committees. We have the Police and Fire Commission. We have the Police Pension Board, Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee, the Environmental Committee, the Holiday Home Decorating Committee, and the Citizen of the Year Committee. Holiday Home Decorating and City of the Year Committee are seasonal. Holiday Home Decorating, they're going to be judging the Halloween decorations as well as the Christmas decorations. And the City of the Year Committee meets probably from November till last Friday when they select and they celebrate the Citizen of the Year. All those committees are designated by ordinance. So the number of people on the committee and their terms are designated, they're within the ordinance of the city. We advertise for openings on those committees. So if we have right now we have an opening on the Environmental Committee, we'll advertise that position. People can go online, they can apply for that. When they apply, I get that application. I bring the person in, I interview, and then I go to you guys for advice and consent of their appointments. That takes place for every one of these committees. These committees are 2-year terms, so we might have someone on a committee for 2 years. I ask them if they want to be reappointed. If not, then we appoint somebody to take their position. But all of those committees, Police and Fire, Police Pension Board, are all established by ordinance. And again, the number of people on that committee, the term of office is all in the ordinance for the city. So those are what I call our formal committees. Then we have something called the Darien Action Committee, which meets on Saturdays once every 2 months, and they provide input for programs. They were responsible for recommending a community calendar. They recommended that we have an Oktoberfest. They recommended that we have a postcard mailer that went out. We've dropped that since, but they made those recommendations. We don't have to take those recommendations, but we've initiated some programs based on their recommendation. That is an informal group. The leaders of all the these community organizations, the Lions, Women's Club, Garden Club, Rotary, et cetera, are invited to that. And if we meet on a Saturday, we may have 25 people there, we may have 15 people there, depending on who can make it. It's a very informal group. And again, we sit and talk for 2 hours on a Saturday. We take notes, we do take minutes of those meetings. But again, there's nothing in the ordinance that stipulates who's on that committee, how long they serve. In fact, when some of these organizations elect a new president, we get a new person on the committee because the new president attends. That brings us to the Darien Business Alliance and Events Commission and this advisory group that we had. That is very similar to the Saturday committee, the Darien Action Committee. It's informal. We're looking to expand upon that committee, to have different business leaders come on that committee to provide input. We don't have a designated schedule. It's not in the ordinance anywhere. It's not under advice and consent of the council. It's just an invitation to business leaders to come in and provide some input to us on what's going on. Right now, we've had one meeting. I don't know when we're gonna have a second meeting. We may go once a quarter. We might go twice a year. So there's really no formal structure to that, except that we'd like to see more business leaders come in and provide that input to us that we feel that we need. So I wanted to give that structure, because I think some people saw they were wondering why we had certain people come in for the advisory committee. We invited 5 people to come in, they came in. Doesn't mean they're gonna come in again. It doesn't mean it's gonna be the same people. There could be different people, there could be new business people coming in. So I wanted to make sure that people knew that was clear. And again, I would, even though I invited 5 people, and even though there's not advice and consent of the council asked, I will, if somebody wants to, if we have a business person come in, I would let the council know that we have certain people coming in. There's nothing that we're not transparent about with regard to that committee. So I wanted to explain that so people understood the committee structure. Is there anything any of you would like to add to that? Because you're all familiar with that. Anything? Okay, Mary?
And I just think something we talked about prior to the meeting was maybe just so that in the future, there's not confusion between like committees versus just advisory groups. If we can, it's, we think of a committee and it's all done, just as like that's the terminology, but since some are more official than others, maybe we just change the reference to the other non-official groups as advisory.
We could do that. And the Saturday committee, the action committee is basically an advisory group.
They
I don't
are.
even
I
know
mean,
if they're an advisory group.
And I think I've been a part of some of those meetings, and it's been great to sit around the table with such a great group of representing all cross sections of Darien and the hardworking volunteer groups that we have. And hopefully someday that'll also be the case with the business groups, but I think a lot of great things have come away from that the city has done, but also just the camaraderie and the connections and the teamwork, I think has been, to me, the biggest takeaway with that group.
I agree. Anything else? All right, if not, that's my report. City clerk's report, Joanne.
No report this evening, thank you.
City administrator, Brian.
No report, Mayor, thank you.
All right, takes us to department head information questions. Any questions for either Chief Thomas or Mr. Gunbeck? Or is there anything the chief or Mr. Gonbeck would like to share with us?
I've shared,
You gave your, yeah,
yes.
okay. All right, takes us to the treasurer's report. We have warrant 24, 25, 21.
Thank you, Mayor.
Warren?
Yes, I'm requesting council's approval of warrant number 242521 in the amount of $151,141.35 from the listed funds. Payroll for the period ended February 20th, amount of $345,990.68. Total will be approved $497,132.03.
Motion to approve. Alderman Stompanato, second by Alderman Shower. Any questions or comments? If none, the roll.
Stompanato,
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
7 ayes.
The warrant's been approved. Takes us to standing committee reports. Any of the chair people have reports. Alderman Belzak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Municipal Services Committee met earlier today, which time we approved the January 27th minutes. Our next Municipal Services meeting is currently scheduled for Monday, March 24th, 5:30 p.m. in council chambers.
And I believe you also made a recommendation that items C through J currently under new business move to the consent agenda.
That's correct. All those items were heard at our meeting today, and they were all unanimously approved.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mary?
Thank you, Mayor. The Admin Finance Committee, the Committee of a Whole, which is also referred to as our budget workshops, met over the last 2 weeks, and we concluded review of our the fiscal year 26 budget. So there will be no meeting this week, Wednesday, March 5th. We did, as the Admin Finance Just Committee, meet tonight, and we will be meeting again on Monday, April 7th. And I also want to say special shout out to the Darien Citizen of the Year Committee. What a phenomenal event that was put on Friday night at Alpine Banquets, now called the Darien Honoree Celebration. We did have the chance to honor Darien's very Citizen of the Year, John Galan, but also wonderful people from Darien Youth Club, Business Alliance, Lions Club, Rotary Club, Garden Club, and Women's Club. It was a great night. Proclamations were given, awards were given, and just a special shout out to Bonnie Casera, Linda Borowiak, Lana Johnson, Tracy Johnson, and Carol Mallers, who really do a phenomenal job making the selection of the Darien Citizen of the Year and actually putting the event together. I heard Bonnie refer to it Friday night as putting a wedding together in like 6 weeks. There were over 200 people present, a very festive atmosphere, and I'm just so grateful for their service. And it's a well-oiled machine, but it happens because of their hard work, and also thanks to the community members that actually nominated John and other people, and hopefully this longstanding tradition will continue for many years.
Thank you, Mary.
A booklet.
Joe?
Yes, sir. The police committee will meet. The Irish committee chair is begrudgingly on Monday, March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, 6 p.m. across the parking lot in the police training room, pending agenda items.
Thank you. Takes us to questions and comments that are agenda related. Anybody in the audience have any questions regarding anything on our agenda tonight? If not, we'll move forward to old business. There being none, we move to the consent agenda. And we have a number of items that will be on the consent agenda. The first item is consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 body-worn cameras and 1 multi-bay docking station with license agreements from Axon Enterprises Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $11,000 using federal equitable sharing funds account 1741-4225. Item B, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreements between the Darien Park District and the City of Darien for the use of Westwood Park for Darien Fest, Summer Concert Series, National Night Out, and Oktoberfest 2025. Item C, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance abating property tax heretofore levied by ordinance O-2812 in the amount of $300,150. Item D, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance abating property tax heretofore levied by ordinance O-1118 in the amount of $382,950. Item E, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution accepting a proposal from Garland DBS Incorporated Services for the metal restoration, flat re-roof or roof repair with additional soffit repair at the police department for the City Hall and Police Departments in an amount not to exceed $410,318. Item F, consideration of a motion to approve authorizing a contingency in the amount of $10,000 for unforeseen repairs related to the roof refurbishment. Item G, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with SKC Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $114,310 for the 2025 crack field program. Item H, consideration of a motion to approve authorizing a contingency in the amount of $3,000 for unforeseen work that may be required for the crack field program. Item I, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Darien Woodridge Fire Protection District for the reimbursement of the parking lot paving maintenance at 8687 Lamont Road and 7550 Lyman Avenue through the City of Darien's 2025 road maintenance contract with Schroeder Asphalt Services as per the contract unit pricing and contingency in the amount not to exceed $252,325.89. Item J, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Schroeder Asphalt for the 2025 street program as per the following schedule of pricing pending 2025-6 budget approval. Base bid $1,367,166.34. Alternate 1, patching $82,500. Alternate 2, Darien Woodridge Fire Department parking lot at $27,024.41. Alternate 3, Darien Woodridge Fire Department parking lot at $150,301.48. Contingency for alternates 2 and 3, $75,000. Total cost $1,701,992.23. Item,
That's it.
I think it was J.
Okay,
K, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance for special use and variations for time extension for Indivistia Darien LLC, 7409 Cass Avenue, for a one-year extension time for the special use permit and variations for the construction of a quick-serve drive-through eating establishment offering retail food items for consumption at 7409 Cass. And then the last one would be R. L. Thank you. Consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance approving minor amendments to a previously approved planned unit development at 2305 Sokol Court. To approve. Kenny, seconded by Alderman Belzak. And the roll.
Kenny,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Stompanato,
Aye.
Shower,
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Our consent agenda has been approved. Now we have new business. We have 2 items under new business. Item A, consideration of a motion to approve a resolution accepting a proposal from Tesca Associates Incorporated for tax increment financing consulting for the Chestnut Court redevelopment project in an amount not to exceed $42,000. Motion to approve. Alderman Shower, seconded by Alderman Stompanato. Any questions or just Jerry?
Thank you, Mayor. Dan, when I saw the proposal, I should have brought it up in the pre-council, but I forgot. I know we're going with Tesca, but there's a contingency for 5, but then we've got another contingency for 7. And that was a little confusing to me as to why we would need the 35 plus the 7 when there's already a $5,000 contingency built in. And then is that 2,500 surveyor fee like part of the 5 or the 7? It just seems like we're doubling up on a contingency there.
As a matter of fact, we are. And I'm trying to get to my memo, whether it was 2,500 and give me one moment here, just.
Yeah, because on top of the 35, we've got another 7, but there's already a contingency of 5 built into the 35. And it just seemed like,
Different page by chance, Jerry, or no?
126? And then the chart is on 128.
Thank you. If I'm looking at page 128, that contingency is an amount of $5,000. And then, yeah, that was for the above, in case there's scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, general administrative stuff. And then the 7,000.
Looks like this for outside consultants that may be needed, Dan, like attorneys or different.
Yeah, I know there was 2 of them. 5,000, page 9 of the attachment.
because I think even at our special meeting, I think John Murphy threw out a number of 35. So that's what I kind of had in my head. And then when I saw the 35 with the contingency, but then we have another 7, that's why I was just,
I know the 7,000 was for the attorneys and or surveyors. I know there's a cost that's currently in there for 2,500. What we may need is additional surveying for the Lamont Road water main. So I wonder, and that's not part of the entire scope of work, if you want to say, that's going to be above and beyond for the water mains we have to hook onto Lamont Road. So we want to include, it's almost $1 million is what it's going to boil down to. But we want to make sure that that's included as part of the TIF district and for reimbursement, if you want to say. That makes sense?
So Dan, in essence, the 5,000 is really internally for the consultant if they run against additional fees.
Yes.
The 7 is for outside work, you said the attorney and surveyor.
Correct. And or any type of other, our DuPage County, for example, because there's outside agency permissions before permitting, if you want to say. One of the issues may be Army Corps of Engineers, for example.
The main reason you're doing that is to allow for reimbursement under the TIF if it goes through.
Correct.
it's huge, yeah. Okay.
I mean, again, and nothing would be expended till we had the justification behind it.
I go, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else?
Is it true then that we can get the reimbursement of these fees from the TIF funds down the road?
Yes.
That's correct, right?
As long as it will be approved as a TIF district,
Right.
then you can get
Right.
reimbursed for expenses.
And just to reiterate, the first part of this agreement, of this scope of work or this agreement is to prepare TIF projections. Okay, so if scope one is not proved to be that it's eligible, the work is stopped or brought back to city council for any additional feedback and or direction.
And then we would be using, if it did get approved as a TIF, TESCA would be used like on an annual basis to do the reporting. I think there's an annual.
There's an annual reporting, and based on what the reporting requirements are, more than likely, yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? None, the roll?
Bauer,
Aye.
Stompanato,
Aye.
Belzak,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Legansky,
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
7 ayes.
The item has been approved. Item B, consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance abating certain taxes previously levied by ordinance number 024-24. Motion to approve. Alderman Sullivan, second by Alderman Shower. Discussion. Jerry.
Thank you, Mayor. We discussed this tonight in our Admin Finance Committee, and I've been through 2 budget processes in my 2 years here. And last year, the council abated the taxes, and we were about $78,000 short with our police pension. And then this year, we had gone with a new with a new tax levy to include the shortfall we anticipated this year, which is about $460,000. So between the 2 years, we're short $538,000 that we've had to absorb within our budget. We just spent 6 hours over the last 2 weeks going through the budget. If there would have been some significant cuts made in the budget to start to offset this, I would have been in favor of it. But since we really did not come up with those kind of dollars in the budget process, I would rather keep a small tax levy increase in this year and try to hold that, and then decrease expenses in the future. So I am a no in terms of abating the taxes.
Any other discussion?
Joe?
I mean, when I ran for office, I ran on the platform I would never approve a tax increase, which I never will.
Alderman Kenny, did you have something?
No, it's a hard thing. I mean, like, I respect Alderman Gustafson's, approach, saying that I'll never raise a tax levy. But at the end of the day, there's gotta be some responsibility to the taxpayers to provide the services, to be able to provide the police service, to be able to provide those pensions. And if we don't start doing things at a small basis today, where are we gonna be, 5-10 years down the road? Are we gonna be kicking the can down the road, trying to find money later on to fill those pensions? So Alderman Legansky, I'm kind of with you on this.
Mary?
Thank you, Mayor. I think staff and the mayor did an excellent job preparing a reasonable budget for our next fiscal year. Something I've noticed in my 6 years on council is our revenues are always, done in a manner that are very conservative. So they're not, they're done, usually we've been coming in exceeding our projected in a budget process. We obviously do have some additional expenses year to year that are one-time things, like this year, it'll be the roofs on City Hall and the police station. But a decision had to be made based on the legalities involved in levying a tax last fall. And in order to we had to decide on it then, even though we were doing it kind of blindly, not knowing where we would stand in next year's budgeting process. So we did it then, knowing that we could come back and revisit it. And now we've had the opportunity, we've completed the review of the fiscal year 26 budget. We're able to maintain a very sound financial position for fiscal year 26 and moving forward. And that's why I support not doing a tax increase this year, doing an abatement, hoping that it gives us one more year without our taxpayers having to pay additional. Do we know what next year is going to bring? We don't. We can't anticipate everything costing a lot more money. Things could still change with the police pension if they change the 2040 to 2050 being the time to pay in. There's a lot of unknowns, but I think for now, I'd rather see the taxpayers hang on to their money, and then when we need to ask them for more, whether it's next year, 2 years, 3 years, none of us can answer that now. We'll have to, come back and revisit that next fall and next winter again.
Mayor?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm not for rate, I would not run, I'm not just raising taxes to raise taxes. I would love to have a program that if we raise taxes by $1, we're trying to cut costs by 2. But at the same time, we just abated the water and we're increasing water rates. So to me, that's a tax. It's just a matter of semantics. You can say, well, we're not raising property taxes, but if we're gonna raise rates on water to cover the abatement there, and to me, it's semantics. That's still an increase that the taxpayer has to get. Maybe it's not a property tax, but to me, it's still a tax. So, and I think in that case, because we were gonna be able to cover this, but now we're just gonna get rid of the abatement, but we don't have a plan. And again, if there's a plan to know how we're gonna continue to cover this, I'm all ears. But as of right now, I don't see the plan that we have on how we're gonna attack the continually increase that's gonna be coming with the police pensions. So,
Brian, did you want to add?
Yeah, just to put some things in context, obviously the city council, has met on the budgets. Some of you have done it for years, some of you have done it for, 2 or 3 years. Staff prepares, along with the mayor, a draft budget for the city council. And some of the things we look at, and we've done that years ago, but I look at a snapshot of 3 years. I don't look 4, 5, 6, 10. Some communities might look 10. The longer out, it's obviously less realistic. But I think 3 years gives us a really good snapshot. And when you look at individual funds in the budget, there's a general fund, capital projects fund, water fund. They're really individual, what I'll call businesses. But all of those within the 3-year period meet the operating reserve that we want to establish every year, which is obviously very, very important. It meets transfers to the capital projects fund, and importantly, it does. If you look in the 3rd year of the capital projects fund, there's about $16 million estimated to be there. So there's some semantics, but it definitely is a plan, and it's a 3-year plan that works the way it's presented to the council. Alderman Luganski talked about budget cuts and things. That's related, but that takes place, during the budget meeting, maybe during the budget approval that happens on April 7th. So residents will have a chance also to look at the big picture in the budget, look at the services that will continue throughout at least next year. And again, the council approves really a 1-year budget with a 2-year forecast. So Alderman Luganski mentioned the water rates. The water rates, again, is a separate business. We have abatements in the water fund that we've done since those bonds were issued, because those are built into the water rates, and the water rates are able to absorb those. And we have not raised water rates for, I think, since 2016. And when you look at the balance of the general fund, capital projects fund over a 3-year period, even with the tax abatement, they are sound. It meets all of the sound practices and goals in the budget. The water fund is not anymore. It did for a long time. When you look at 1, 2, and 3 years out in the reserves, without some kind of increase to the water fund, you wouldn't have any of the reserves. I mentioned this during the budget. Dan and the Municipal Services Department have really done an incredible job on water system improvements. Dan been an operator probably most of your career, Dan, and I think that was a bonus when you came on. You certainly know water systems. And as we move into this recommended rate to the city council at the upcoming meeting, we'll probably list, Dan, I'll have you list all of those projects, because definitely the water fund fees residents are paying certainly goes a long way. And we don't know how important drinking water is until we have a main break. We don't have water for the night, or hopefully never longer than that. So again, I guess in recap, I think what was presented, I would say is a plan, but it's a 3-year plan. Anything out past that, we'll toss a coin and see how that comes out.
Ralph?
When we levied in fall, we anticipated needing the additional funds. I also shared Jerry's concern with the future. But after the budget process, we came in with a budget that did not need the additional funds levied. And I'm good with that, and I had questioned several times, are we cutting services to the residents, which we're not, we're still doing the programs that we've been doing. But I am good this year, but I would definitely caution that moving forward, we may indeed need to raise taxes. Everything is going up in prices. So I'm okay for this year, and I would love to never raise taxes again. I don't know that anybody on this council would say that their taxes are too low right now, so that's kind of where I sit on this. But the budget itself came out to where I was comfortable saying this year we could live without it. If we got it, it would just be extra money.
I think that's a good point, Ralph, the 3-year budget forecasting, as
Right.
I've mentioned a couple of times. When that budget comes out, the final draft, it does show in year 2 and year 3 a tax levy increase in order to meet the estimated pension obligation.
Right.
So this issue will probably come up again next year. Next year's issue, when it comes up, because if the council holds off this year on meeting that pension fund, I think the estimate was about $60 of an increase.
Right.
Well, next year, if we double that and don't have it this year, it'll be 120. It's more dramatic, and it'll be a little harder to explain.
Right.
Well, we didn't do it this year, that's why it's a little bigger. But again, looking at the 3 years is important, but years 2 and 3 are important also.
Would it be a smaller pill today in 2025-26 budget to have the taxes raised slightly? Going forward, those years 2 and 3 you're talking about that we're waiting to see, what happens if the taxes have to go up substantially? Would it be a better time to raise them now versus then? Or would we have a more of a tax rate in the future than we would now?
Well, I think to answer your question, if we did not abate this year, a resident would pay, average home about $400,000 would pay $60. Next year, they would pay the 60 they paid this year and another 60. So that's 180 over 2 years. Under the plan presented, they will only pay 120 over the same period. So you are saving, at least this year, an estimated $60 for the residents. It would be back in their pocket, not part of what they pay. So it would be
But that's assuming that's the plan we pursue.
Right.
This year's plan was to cover the additional costs of the police pension. Because that's what we've always been able to do, with the exception of last year, we made up the difference. We've prided ourselves on, the fact that we've put our real estate taxes towards our police pension. But, that methodology it's not gonna be the case anymore because one exceeds the other. But it doesn't mean we have to necessarily go after double the increase next year. We get to determine that ourselves as long as, we sit down and look at it. But, to me, just like you said earlier, we've been successful in putting together a budget for this next year, and the forecast still keeps us in a healthy place that, I feel like we should hold off asking for an increase until we absolutely need it.
And can we levy for next year's expenses this year?
Well, the cycle would be the same as it was this year.
Fall.
I'll come to you in the fall
Right.
and make a recommendation on what the tax levy would be, but it's before the budget happens.
Right.
So I would.
Which is
it's-
okay,
it's-
but my question is, so we've made a budget, this is the amount of money that we need, which includes the abatement. If we didn't abate, can we earmark that money as for potential pension the year after this budget year? So are we able to levy for future years?
No, the levy, the levy you
Based
do
on
in the
this
fall,
coming year?
yeah, the levy you do in the fall, we collect
For
or
this year.
approve, and the county does the calculations by
Right,
May,
okay.
that comes in a couple payments. But if you had an extra $500,000, now let's just say somebody gave us a grant for $500,000 to the city council, if there's no restrictions, you could earmark it how you want. You could pay early,
Right.
make payments early, not recommended, but you can certainly do that. But the tax levy is very specific.
And at the end of this year, if our budget, we looked at it, maybe our revenue was a little bit higher than expected, maybe some of the projects came in a little lower, we may have part of this pension covered for next year by the fact that we just have increased our funds.
And if you look at in this year as a snapshot, and that exactly is what happened.
Right.
But that happens after the audit's conducted and we get
Right.
the real numbers. And historically, what we have done, or the city council has done, if there's a surplus, it might be $1 million, it might be 500,000, that gets transferred to the capital projects fund for future projects. That's council policy. It could be, go to wherever, that could go to wherever you direct me to, or the treasurer to put it.
Ted?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've made the statement, I've said it many, many years. When it comes to taxes, every time we have this vote, I always say, we always abate, we should always abate. It's good on the homeowners, but more importantly, it basically shows that we did our process during the budget and made sure that we got the numbers as good as they need to be, and we're looking how we're looking for this year. I've said this in the patch, I've said this going forward. When it comes to the police pension, we don't know what our bogey is. Because the state of Illinois is gonna continue to change it, okay? And we don't know where it's gonna be at next year. We have to take a look at it going forward on a year-to-year basis. And we have to continue to basically communicate to the people at home saying, hey, if we do raise your taxes, it's because of this situation. And as of this year, we're looking very good, okay, based on what we did during the budget process. We don't know what's gonna happen next year, we're not gonna know what's gonna happen down the line. But as Brian said, we do a 3-year budget, and this is how we stay within our parameters, basically. So, as I say, we should abate, okay? When it comes to the water situation, I can go back in history and take a look at the situation 12, 13 years ago when Chicago raised the rates, and that's when we had the shock tape. So it's a slight increase for that, but that's a different animal right now. But in the end, when it gets right down to it, we've always done our due diligence at the city of Darien when it comes to the numbers, and I say we abate this year.
I've been on city council 27 years. And I've been through a budget process with Brian for about 22 years. And we've always used a 3-year projection. And there are a lot of times, because we budget conservatively on revenues, we will look back, you could look back and say, we budgeted for this amount, but we came in above that because we didn't spend we got cheaper prices on the street program or cheaper prices on this or that. So, I mean, you've been on council for a long time. You've probably realized that as well. I think the thing that people also need to realize is our levy, which produces our real estate taxes, has always gone for our police pension. Doesn't go towards it goes to the police pension. We have always, we levy, our levy rate is what now, 2,500,000? And that's our levy, and our police pension contribution is 2,900,000. So it's about a $400,000 difference, all right? There was a time when Ted and I were early on our careers where we were paying $800,000 a year. Then we paid like 1 million, 1.8, 2. I mean, so it's gonna go up. What people don't understand is there's a pension ramp. That pension ramp in every municipality Page County or in the state of Illinois is gonna show increases on a year-to-year basis. So and we are paying 100% of the recommended amount. And Mike will tell you, we could pay, what, 90%, correct, Mike? But we don't. Our treasurer has always recommended we pay 100% of what the actuary recommends we pay. And we do that. And yet, our amount of funded, we used to be funded at what, 62%?
61, I thought was our highest, or was
And now we're
closer.
funded at 58%, even though we've been paying 100% on a year. So I want people to understand the whole picture. We're just not talking whether we should abate or not abate. This money is strictly police pension fund money. And that's, we've seen the increase, and we're gonna see increases every year up until 2040 unless the state does something or allows us to do something different. Mary?
I'm just so grateful for this great dialogue. We've had it for the last couple of weeks, and we continue to have it. We're very fortunate as elected officials to have, I'm flanked by two CPAs, and I'm looking across at one. We've got some amazing business people, attorneys, realtors, bankers sitting at this table, and we've had some very great conversations. A lot of work goes into the budget, and then the conversations, the vetting of it, it's so constructive. And, you know, I think our community members know that. That's why they've elected us, that we don't rubber stamp things. We have great dialogue, and it continues, and it's even continuing now, because we're just trying to be fiscally responsible and do what's good for our citizens. And I'm grateful for people doing further analysis like Jerry did and bringing up other points along the way, because that's what makes us have a sound community and give our community members the services that they have learned to expect, and then, you know, some enhancements along the way that we've done the last few years.
Ted?
Last thing I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna give kudos to Dan Gombach. 15, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, I don't remember when it was, but we started on the ditch program. And every year we would drop, what, $500,000 into ditches to make sure that the water was flowing through the city of Darien. And we don't have to take out a major bond, we never had to on any of those infrastructure projects. But we focus on doing $500,000 or whatever it is every year to make sure the water flows. What happens, okay? Streets, they live longer, they last longer. We gotta make sure that the flooding's less in the houses. Everything we've done, we're looking at infrastructure improvements that, you know, that Dan brought forward, that's gonna help us for the next 50, 60, 70 years. And guess what, you know, now we don't have that anymore, okay, and that's a savings. Hopefully we can put that money, as we've been doing our due diligence toward the pension. But again, it's gonna be one of those things that we keep talking about. We don't know where it's gonna be at. It's gonna outpace inflation by 3, 4, 5 times, but that's another thing we'll deal with down the road, because until the state of Illinois comes back with a hard number, we're just gonna sit here and take the best guess as we can.
Anyone else? Tom?
Yeah, I'm in favor of abatement. Raising taxes, you do because you need to, not because you want to. We don't need to this year. And I think we need to also focus on the fact that just because historically we've used the real estate taxes to pay the pension, doesn't mean we have to. There might be other methods of us raising funds other than raising real estate taxes. We can, you know, so we don't have, you know, and we've discussed, oh, well, what it's gonna be next year. Well, we don't know what it's gonna be next year or the year after that, but maybe we can have some other creative way. Maybe we'll have businesses coming in and raising sales tax. I mean, that is the biggest amount of money we get. So at this time, I think it is premature to raise it, and I'm in favor of the abatement. And then we got a year now to figure out, is there some other way of generating, you know, revenue so that we can cover these things going forward? And maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but I think it's premature to raise them at this time.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. And the roll?
Sullivan,
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Gustafson,
Aye.
Kenny,
Aye.
Legansky.
No.
Stompanato.
Aye.
I have 6 ayes and 1 no.
The item has been approved. That takes us to questions and comments and announcements of a general nature. Does anyone have anything to share with the council? Either from the audience or
Jerry did.
Yes, Mayor.
Jerry.
Thank you, Mayor. We talked tonight in admin finance about the intergovernmental agreement with the Darien Park District for the events for this year. One of the things I want to point out is one of the things that is part of that agreement with the Park District is restrictions with advertising. And if we're agreeing to those points with them, I think it's something we need to address as a council eventually in terms of how we advertise for other events in the city. If it's the Darien Dash or fests or anything else that we're responsible for, I think we're setting.
The board are you including too, right?
Sure.
Our kiosk advertising
Yeah,
board, same
all
thing.
that, yeah, because I think now that if we've agreed to certain restrictions with the Park District, I think we should be consistent with how we do advertising throughout the city. And I just want to point that out because, you know, I don't think we can pick and choose how we want to advertise. And then also I'd like to, I do want to address the, some of the things going on in the patch regarding comments made by a business owner here. When it first came up a couple weeks ago at the first council meeting, I had no problem with the concert. It's at a bar. It has people over 21 years old. People can choose what they want to do. Again, somebody has that right. And, you know, I took Mr. Taft for his word when he said, I didn't know, I can't vet everybody. But at the same time, some of the things that are coming up in terms of planning for another concert in the summer, I think is kind of starting to cross the line in terms of if he is a reputable businessman in the city, or a big business person in the city, I think needs to maybe be a little bit more professional with some of the things that are being said on social media. Because again, now I took his word to say, okay, this one concert's gonna happen, but now to have things come up and say, let's plan for another one, I just think that we're starting to create social media is so easy to say, and it's easy. You know, you post something, you say something, you do it from your phone, there's no consequences. But when you start to see articles and talk about digging holes and things like that, it's starting to cross the line that I don't think this city needs to be dealing with right now. At the same time, you know, who knows what's going to happen? I hope nothing. But you know, January 6th was a rough, bad day in this country. It was a sad day. It also affected me personally. Okay, not a lot of people know that. I'm not going to get into the details, but I think when people start considering, you know, digging holes and talking about those types of things, stop. You know, take a step back before you post something. Don't send it. It's so easy to do. But I just think that as the council, business people within this city need to take the high road and just be a little bit more professional with what they say.
Anyone else? Gary?
Thank you, Jerry. Just getting back to Jerry's first point about the advertising guidelines. Brian, we did talk about this in admin finance, and Brian's gonna go back and try to get a little bit more information, clarity from the Park District, and also pull together some numbers in terms of what we bring in revenue-wise, or what we hope to bring in revenue-wise across the board in advertising and sponsorship dollars. And it's something we're gonna come back and revisit. And just to echo Jerry's comments about, you know, what's going on concert-wise this Wednesday. I just, you know, I'm hoping and praying for peaceful times in our community. And clearly, everybody, it's been evident in the last couple years politically in our country, but you know, it's a private establishment, it's a legal thing going on. I mean, obviously our police force is aware, but we just want everyone to to be respectful and peaceful at any event, especially this Wednesday.
I think it needs to be repeated, and we said this a couple weeks ago, there's nothing, the city of Darien does not condone any of the political feelings that this individual expresses. We said that 2 weeks ago. We've had people in social media who've said that it was a cowardly stance on the part of the city not to force that gentleman not to perform. We have no right to stop him from performing. And so I just think it's unfortunate because a lot of people go to social media and get all their news all from social media.
That's pretty scary.
And that's unfortunate.
Very scary.
And I'm not putting down the patch or anything like that, but people will go in and they'll read an article or they'll, and that becomes their opinion.
Yeah, we just talked about a few minutes ago regarding abatements and taxes and what if we were to go ahead and violate this artist's constitutional rights in a lawsuit and pass. Now we're sitting back and now we have to pay on a lawsuit because we didn't take our oaths seriously when we said we were gonna uphold the United States Constitution.
Right.
So I think we are acting responsibly by letting them have their say and making sure our police department are sitting back.
We're taking all the steps
Right.
we should be taking.
Absolutely.
I think what Mary says is, I'm with Mary. My hope is that everything goes peacefully Wednesday night. He comes, he performs, and then he's gone. And that there's no type
They have a
of
good time.
reaction to them. I know this is something that bothers, and I empathize with people. I'm not crazy about this performance either, but at the same time, it's not within our power as a council to tell him he can't do that. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn. Alderman Shower, seconded by Alderman Stompanato. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.